Welcome to this episode of the Comedy Defect podcast. My name is Winter, I'm a comedian, and this is my show. So welcome to the show, guys. This is episode 80 with a very funny Nathan Cassidy. I'm not going to talk too much about this episode because you'll hear it in its entirety. So I'm going to keep this intro very, very short today. If you want to donate to the podcast, you can. You go to Patreon, type in The Comedy Defect Podcast, donate as much as you feel this podcast is worth, or if you can't donate, just share your favourite episode. Tell me if you like these really short intros and outros, because I'm sure you probably do, because otherwise it just feels a little bit self-indulgent. But you can follow Nathan Cassidy on all the social media places, and he tells you about them at the end of the episode. And this is episode 80. Nathan Cassidy, he's a very funny comedian. Enjoy. Nathan Cassidy, thank you for having me in your house. And how are you today?
I'm very good. Thank you for coming over from your house, which is a million miles away.
Oh, that's not that far. It's Hemel Hempstead, man, you know? It's North London. That's what it is, you know?
Yeah,
so.
I don't travel anywhere for anything, so I'm very grateful. I did kind of make it look like it was a suggestion that you come over, but I never leave my house. If there's any gig, it has to be within 10 seconds of my house now. I'm very lazy.
That's great. And so you were out last night, you're looking a bit tired. I'm going to be honest with you.
I've just had a shower.
Right.
I was digging last night.
Fresh.
Yeah, I work every night. This is me at my best.
No.
Can you say I look tired? I've just had a shower quickly. I was working on something this morning, and I tried to look respectable, but I've clearly failed because you just said I look. Oh, Nathan, yeah, nice to see you. You look like shit.
So I like to start strong, like bond with my guests.
You've got a hat on, so I don't know what's under there. You could be hiding a multitude of hair sins.
Yeah, I am. That's what's happened. Yeah. Where were you last night?
I was at Nice and Spiky hosting that. I do a lot of my new material at... Oh, it's a gig, of course, on a Monday in Islington. So I do lots of new material there, and it's usually lovely to do new material. But last night, it was a perfect storm of lots of comedians there. And it was, and I think, without question, the worst audience there's ever been in any gig ever. Wow. They were lovely. They were very good comedians, but the trouble with very good comedians is they're sometimes very bad audience members because they're more experienced comedians at those new material gigs. They're not laughing at anything. They're not even laughing at the really bad stuff, which I found really confusing. I'm like, at least laugh at the truly awful stuff, because you're not going to laugh
the
at
car crash. You want to see that, right?
Yeah.
Oh, this is straight into the wall, and kept going. But
I couldn't really say anything because they were lovely people. They were lovely comedians. They were lovely people. Yeah. They were just shit audience members. And as much as I dropped in a couple of times, they were shit audience. They're not there to be audience members. They're there to be comedians. So I had to say at the end, you were very good as comedians, but the worst audience I've ever experienced. But,
just all in their heads going, oh yeah, I see what you're trying to do there. But,
yeah. And even when it's funny, it's like, it's funny, but...
Yeah, I'm not going to give you anything. You gave me nothing, so I'm not going to give you... I'm only staying here because I want to stay in with a promoter because I don't want to seem like a prick. And then, and now I feel bitter for staying. And oh great, I'm just making the night a whole lot better.
Yeah.
But no, to be fair, like you were resident MC as Nice and Spiky for the last few years. Anyway, like how many years have you been there?
Yeah, quite a few years. We used to do it in Westminster. So
I love that gig. I was talking to Stephen Carlin about that gig, and it was such a lovely room to try new material out in. And it's a shame that it went under, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's still there, the pub, and we're still in touch with the owner. I don't know quite what happened. I guess the owner changed hands from memory, but I may be totally wrong there. Yeah, they're usually really nice, because on Monday people are just up for doing new material, and they're usually really nice in these small rooms, and it's where I do all my new material, and it's the reason that I can do a new show every year. Gigs like that on a Monday, but mainly that gig, because I can put in 10-15 minutes of brand new stuff off a bit of paper. And
bit of Phil Collins as well.
And Phil Collins, And it's the reason it's the reason I'm so spectacularly successful.
Have you ever done presenting as well?
TV presenting?
Yes.
I've done TV warm-up. I've done... What have I done? I can't think off the top of my head. My career is about 72 years now. So I'm trying to think back to... I'm talking about in my show at the moment. I dipped into the circuit around the millennium, so around 2000, and then I had about 9 years off. You have to have a break, 9 years.
Yeah.
After the first year. And I've been back around 10 years, so it's hard to remember everything I've done. But the TV warm-up definitely, which felt like TV presenting, but not too much TV presenting.
What's that like? Is it fun to do?
Warm-up?
Yeah.
Oh, it's hell.
Is it?
It's too far from my house, number one, as I've said.
Yeah. A minute and a half.
No, it's fine. It's fine. All these jobs are fine. What I love doing are my shows and stand-up. So anything around that is just, I don't like quite as much, but it's absolutely fine. Yeah.
What's the grueling part about it? Why is it so fucking just like a chore?
You're putting words into my mouth. I've just been listening to political interviews. You're putting words into my mouth there, Windsor. I haven't said that.
I'm looking for a soundbite, okay? Just let me get this soundbite.
Yeah. There's a particular interview on Radio 5 that won't let anyone answer a question. I feel like phoning her up and complaining, but of course then she'd just interrupt me and go, "What are you complaining about?" I'm going, "Let me get to the end of my complaint." I feel like I'd tweet her and halfway through the tweet would cut out because she's interrupting me. Anyway, no, I would not say it's grueling. I've changed my mind to a certain opinion on this recently. There are certain things, I think, when you're first starting your career in your first couple of years, you think, well, I don't necessarily want to do this because I don't enjoy it as much, or I find it a chore, I find it grueling. So the travel, I'm joking there, but long distance travel or things that are maybe a bit more soulless, and even as much as kind of adverts and that kind of thing, where I totally ruled that out in the past. Now I'm ruling them in more. I've just got a bit older, and I don't know, these things become less important. Desperate for money. Yeah,
I'll do anything. I mean, I'm a handyman. I can do a little bit electric, like a plug. I can change a fuse, a light bulb.
Yeah. Turning up for TV warm up. Do you need anything else doing? I can make tea. I can make coffee. Anything. Just give me an extra $5. Yeah. No, of course, money becomes important when you have 24 children like I do. Right. But no, it's just not ruling things out and not being so hasty with. I look at all opportunities now, even if it's something I don't want to do. I think, what could I get out of this? I've only got 30 years left on the planet, and that's, so I don't actually want to say no to things. I want to look for a reason to say yes. I will still say no to things if they're more than 10 minutes from my house, but I will. I'll give yes more of a chance. There's your soundbite.
That's nice.
Nathan
I like
Cassidy
that.
gives yes more of a chance.
Rather than peace. But what's the top 3 things that you would find solace?
Wow.
This question 1.
Top 3. Yeah, no, that's a hard thing to think of at the top of my head. Yeah. Do you know what? At the moment, which is going to be annoying for your soundbite, I'm feeling quite positive and happy at the moment.
Great.
So it's quite difficult to think, oh, that's rubbish, or I am feeling an incredibly positive. If you'd interviewed me a year ago, it'd been a very different interview. I'd go, this is awful, this is shit. I'm in an incredibly happy space at the moment.
What's caused this?
Yeah. Personal life is good, so that's where personal life and family. There's 1 or 2 things that have happened around my personal life in the last few years. So it's been up and down, but now it's been it's in a good space. And family, we all have things that are up and down, and I guess you never know what's going on in someone's personal life. I went to see Richard Gadd's play, Baby Reindeer, at the weekend, and my goodness, everyone has heard how good it is. Yeah. But I think one of the lessons I learned from that is, even if you think you know what's going on with someone because you've read about it in the press, it's only when you see a show like that goes into the nitty gritty, and then you also, I'm friends with him, so I can talk about him off stage in terms of 1 or 2 extra things. Oh my God, you just never know what's going on with people. So what's going on with me is that I'm pretty happy at the moment across the board with what I'm doing professionally in my personal life. So it's hard to think of anything negative. But hey, we've got some time left in this interview, so it will come. Don't get me wrong. I'm a horrible bitter. It will come out.
Don't worry.
This is a mess.
You started in 2000, right? In the millennium.
Yeah, 99.
Was that like a New Year's resolution or something, or did you just go, "Oh, this is the year"? Oh, we made it through. My computer's okay now. Let's do comedy.
No, it was just before the millennium, so it was something that I wanted to do from university, and like a lot of stand-ups, it took me a couple of years to do it. I went to university with Marcus Brigstock, so I would watch him do stand-up at university. I did theatre at university, I did writing, and I've heard a few comedians say that you kind of like, oh, stand-up is something I will kind of want to do, but in the meantime, because it is a bit ballsy, I'll write theatre. Theatre's my thing. A bit of acting is my thing. But all the time, I knew I was looking at people like Marcus and going, I want to be that guy. Because Marcus was very, very good right from the start. Very slick. He won the BBC New Award in 1996. I'm like, I want to be that guy. I should have just started. It was ridiculous not.
Your degree title was Theatre and Creative Writing or something?
No. My degree was, I did law for a year, then I dropped out because it was too fucking difficult. It wasn't difficult, it just took up too much of my time, and what I wanted to do was ponce around being a theatre producer, writer at university. So that's what I became when I did psychology, which was a slightly easier degree than law, but I enjoyed it more, and it gave me a little bit more headspace to do writing and theatre. So I did a lot of writing and theatre and around the country while I was at university at the Edinburgh Fringe. So my love for stand-up was there, but it took me a couple of years. So I moved to London. I wanted to move to London because I wanted to do stand-up, but still I wasn't really doing it. And
from where?
Well, I was at university in Bristol, but I lived in Birmingham. I was born in Birmingham. So yeah, it took me a year or so, but then yes, I did my first gig at Balham Banana Cabaret, a big first place to do a gig. And I was terrible, but I got one laugh for saying how bad it was going, and that's all the laugh I needed to say, yes, thank goodness. I always knew I wanted to do this. And I talked to other people about this, and I think I do lots of other stuff. I do writing, directing, and acting, and as you say, TV warm-up and whatever. But stand-up is... So, referring to your earlier question, it's like, what's soulless and what's a chore? Nothing's soulless and a chore, but I think I'm a pure stand-up. I want to do stand-up. I love stand-up. It fires me. The gigs fire me. The shows fire me, maybe even a little bit more. So everything else is just... enjoyable, but not as doesn't put the fire in like stand-up does.
It's an additive, it's extra, isn't it? It really, it's like every skill that you learn in stand-up, it translates to like voiceovers, acting, theatre. It's all there, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, more theatre, more to than I guess TV acting, because there's less going on with TV acting, isn't there? But theatre, you have to be big, you have to be lots of facial expressions, lots of give them a visual display of what's going on, like emotionally.
Yeah, I think every art form can affect. I was talking to another stand-up recently about music, and I'm learning piano at the moment. It was Javier Costales actually, and one of my favourite stand-ups, absolutely brilliant.
It's just improv all the time, right?
Yeah, and he's a musician, and his stand-up is like, sounds wanky, but it is like jazz, isn't it? It's free form. And he's, I was talking to him the other day, and he said, it's so great you're doing music, because music does affect your comedy, because whether you're just giving things a little bit more time, or you're just, there's a different kind of level of thinking and spirituality about what you're doing, because you're listening to classical music and your mind is going in those directions. I really do think it does affect your work and make it better.
When did you start doing your grades then? Because I saw your Instagram. Was it Instagram like little videos you do?
Yeah, it's only been a couple of years. I've done 4 grades in probably a year and a half. I do try and do a grade every kind of 6 months. So I've got my grade 5 booked for November the 27th, and so I need to spend the next 3 weeks doing scales and all the boring stuff, which I've avoided. But yeah, I'm excited, but I never get nervous doing stand-up comedy, but my goodness, I get nervous in those exams. My hands are shaking, because I didn't do it as a kid. I did it briefly as a kid, but because I had 30 years at the piano game, my hands lock up. Yeah. And it's ridiculous. I'm almost laughing at myself about how nervous I get, and I feel sorry for any stand-ups that talk about the nerves that they get doing stand-up, because I wouldn't want that every night, but some stand-ups do get that every night. And but yeah, it's nice to have a different experience where I'm totally out of my comfort zone. And I'm shit at something and trying to overcome it.
Your hands get stage fright then, like, right?
Yeah,
that's mad.
Yeah, my mind is totally relaxed. I'm looking at the examiner. They're always very, very friendly, lovely people trying to make you do your best, and I'm smiling at them, very relaxed. And then I look, my hands are just complete. They're like 2 rocks, and I'm banging away at the piano. The last exam I did, it was totally embarrassing. I did pass. But I spent the first half a piece playing like Les Dawson, literally like Les Dawson, playing one note out. Because the thing is, you can't stop. if you stop, you lose 5 marks. Very technical, this, but so it's better to carry on. So if you carry on playing one note out, it's better than. So I played the whole half a piece, and I can just imagine this examiner going, "This is the first thing I did in the exam." Going, "What the fuck is this guy doing?" Yeah. But yes, I enjoy it.
It's just like, I guess, like comedy. It's like you go, "Oh shit, I've left that line out." I just keep going. Don't stop. Don't fucking think about it. You're gonna forget. You're gonna fuck everything up if you think about it. That's it, man.
With comedy, you can cover things. With piano, it's like juggling, is it? It's either good or it's shit. Yeah. And unless you're an excellent pianist where you can cover things, it's shit if you make a few mistakes.
You need a long hair, isn't it, to cover like where you're placing your hands.
Yeah.
Did you get a teacher to help you at the beginning, or did you just go straight into it?
My kids have a teacher, so I don't have a teacher, but I listen in. Yeah. It's like when you go on a tour.
You're like, just gonna press this record button, okay, on the cassette over here, right? Yeah. That's great. It's like a note for next time. That's it. Just gonna set the video camera up on everything you're doing. I mean, I don't want to play extra. I'm just paying one fee, okay? This is not extra.
That's it. I pretend to do the dinner and stuff. That's great. I'm just listening in. Particularly, my son's doing grade, whatever he's doing, the grade above me, so it's perfect. I'm just making the dinner. At 2:00 in the afternoon. Why are you making the dinner?
That's great, son. Whatever grade you're doing there, that's fine. I just don't move that camera.
It's so expensive though. I can't pay twice for the same lesson.
Agreed. Yeah. So then you did the Banana Cabaret.
Yeah. So that was big gig to do your first gig. It was a very different act then. I wanted to kind of improvise half my set. So that's why I like people like Javier Costales. That's how I started. Maybe not that he's particularly improvising, but he leaves the gaps and pauses for things to happen. Yeah. So Trevor Locke or all these guys, I really like. So that's how I started. But the big clubs, they don't like that shit.
No, that's it. It's difficult, isn't it? Yeah. But I think now that I find that don't the audience now want to be the show? I found you kind of go up there and do your material. I think that I find this right. There's an age limit between them just listening to your stuff and then being one of, like, if you're like within maybe 10, 15 years of their age, they're like, okay, why should we listen to this person? This person needs to keep us entertained. We are more or less the same as them. This person needs to kind of keep us on edge a little bit, I find, rather than like, the piece of people doing on the circuit for 30 years and they go, oh, this guy, he's obviously older. He's obviously, he looks wizened and like a sage, he walks on and goes, in a suit, kind of going, all right, guys, this is my stories. And they go, oh, fine. Well, this person obviously has a story because they have been on this planet for a lot longer. Do you know what I mean?
No, not particularly. Are you saying there's an age gap between the comedian and the audience that is important? Or
no, not important, but a different dynamic of what you need to deliver.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's about age so much. In terms of, it just makes it slightly trickier. Of course, stand-up is tricky. If you're playing to exactly your demographic who remember all your references, I love the 80s. And if you give me a reason to drop in any 80s reference, and people who like my stuff and my 12 fans that I have around the world are looking out for that obscure 80s reference that they enjoy. So there's a particular comedian that loves me throwing in Bill Werbenick as a reference. And I do it just for him when he comes. Yeah, so it makes it trickier that people aren't remembering, but you can't think that you're just going to play to a particular demographic.
Of course, it's like a different animal every night, right?
Yeah.
But maybe it's just my kind of like thought of like that they're older, that there's a sort of automatic respect. Whereas like when you're younger, maybe they go, oh well, okay, they're just. It's like that kind of.
When the comedian gets older, you mean?
Yeah,
you get more respect. Yeah. I don't like getting older particularly. I don't think any of us do, but I think as a stand-up, it's nice to get older because you have more experience, you have more stage time, but you have more life experience and you have a different way of looking at things than I didn't have. Things I've talked about in terms of only having 30 years left and stuff. It's I joke about it, but it's there. It's a reality. Maybe it's not quite a reality. Maybe I'm being pessimistic, but you know what I mean? I did a show once called Date of Death, which is how your life would be different if you had a date of death as well as a date of birth. And I almost have that in my head as thinking, well, let's say 75 is the average. So I've got maybe 50 years left, 'cause I'm 25 years old, but it's only 30, 35 years or whatever. And, so you've got to get on with it. And it does colour the stuff that you do and what you talk about. And, it does give a little bit of depth to your material in your shows, hopefully. Yeah. I think I answered a different question at the end of that.
Sense of urgency. No, it's fine. Yeah. No, that's it, because it's you're right. It's spot on. It gives it depth. The age you mature, and you have more to draw from.
Yeah. But I mean, there are some remarkable stand-ups that buck that trend. Kitson probably the most famous in terms of the depth he had as a 20-year-old comic. And there are some brilliant, stand-ups like Tom Lucy, who started very, very young and, have that depth. But I think it's obviously easier the more... one of the reasons I dropped out is I had nothing to say. So it's you see a lot of stand-ups saying this, that they run out of things to say when they're young because I've grown up in a happy house. I've got nothing to talk about. So you do your first show where you get the whole material out because you've got an hour's worth of material from your childhood and just talking about normal things. But then what else do I talk about now? So I went away for 9 years and lived and got different perspectives and travelled the world and did different things. And so that's...
Where'd you go? Did you go all over?
I went, around the whole world. So, I went across Russia on the Trans-Siberian Express, which was... what an adventure that was, through China and Asia, through Australia and across America. Yeah, it was great. And I don't particularly talk about that, but I think a lot of the things I do now, whether it's music or whether it's travel or whether it's personal issues that I go through, highs and lows, it's not that you talk about them. This is what I do. Maybe I'm giving away my secret formula here, but this is something I've stumbled across recently, that a lot of time I think people talk about things that have happened to them and try and make them funny, which is absolutely fine. But I experience things and I think it colours the emotions of what I'm talking about. For example, if you go through a very low period, which in personal life, which I did do a couple of years ago, there was a tendency to talk about it specifically. But it's very hard to make that funny. It's very hard to make that a night out. Yeah. It's like, and obviously there are shows, and Baby Reindeer being one, a great example, which is, oh my God, 5-star reviews across the board, of course.
Sorry, but it made I haven't seen that show.
It's about a stalker that he has. And I'm sure that's not a plot spoiler. That is what is reported everywhere. But my goodness, I haven't cried in a theatre piece or a stand-up piece. I can't remember. I burst into tears at the end. So yeah, for you obviously that's a great experience to have, but for stand-up, not so good. Possibly. But there are some very saddened shows, and I've put some stuff in my shows in the past. But now I think I use the low points to colour material the other way. So you don't even mention them. You mentioned the fact, if you've been at that low point and you've come out of it, the juxtaposition between those points, the fact that you're feeling so high now compared to feeling so low, you can talk about something else and try and give people an uplifting experience through just the emotion of what you went through. So again, music, travel, you don't have to talk about that specifically, but how was I feeling when I was playing that music? I was feeling more spiritual, so let's talk about that in my material,
So basically you're just plumbing the depths rather than living there with the entire set, right? Just go, okay, well, this is what it was, and let's have a look at that, and we can laugh at it now, instead of looking back sort of thing, right?
As I say, not talking about the
thing itself. But
not talking about the thing itself.
Projecting that onto the material that you're doing.
Projecting the emotions. It may not be clear what I'm saying, but in specific terms, if you go through a rough patch, a lot of comedians will talk about that in very minute detail, and it will be funny because there'll be some tragic stuff that goes on there, but a different option there is to take the fact you were feeling low and are now out of that mess to talk about something completely different in a very positive and uplifting way.
Right, okay.
And in your head what you're talking about.
Yeah, right.
The audience doesn't know. All the audience are finding is that you're coming at it from wow, this is uplifting. Where's this feeling coming from? It's coming from actually something I'm not telling you.
Interesting. So a secret. So it's like a secret. Isn't that what they say? Isn't there an acting method like that as well? That you have you have the secret. You don't.
You don't tell the rest of the cast.
Yeah.
What you're feeling, or so absolutely. So there was a bit in my current show, Observational, where it is an uplifting show at the end, and I mentioned something, and it's 99% true, and where the variations differ is that if I'm talking about. I'm just thinking about what's a plot spoiler. Yeah, if I'm talking about laying in bed, unable to move with a bad back, this is not the reality, but this is an example. If I say to people, "Oh, I'm laying in bed with a bad back and I was unable to move," that would make the audience feel like, "Oh, sorry for you," or whatever. But it doesn't get them down. If you say, "I was depressed and I was laying in bed, unable to move," it puts a whole new different downer on it that you potentially don't need, So you can take the emotion of feeling low, not tell the audience what really happened, so you can get that uplifting message out of it without bogging the audience down in the reality of the tragedy.
Great, because they will think what they want anyway, and it keeps it light and flowing rather than as you say, rather than just kind of just anchor yourself to that.
Yeah, and it's
sadness.
the same thing. You get into that.
It's a trigger words, isn't it? Because of course, depression. Like, oh, great, now that everyone's thinking about depression, and then they're like, oh no, this isn't going to go somewhere tragic where it can go much deeper.
One word can change the whole course of the material and how it's perceived. Certainly at the end, and it's something I've only thought about in the last year or so, and I've stumbled across it really. In terms of, certainly in Observational, it's unlike other shows I've done. Audiences are leaving the auditorium, room below a pub, the auditorium uplifted and saying things like, "That's the best thing I've ever seen." And they're saying that because they're uplifted, they're feeling positive. And of course, I've ended shows on a high, and you always try and do that. But there's a difference between ending the shows on a high because of a joke and ending the shows on a truly uplifting, positive message, life affirming, send the audience out with a skip. And also, if you're doing a free show, digging into their pockets for £10s and £20, which is what they are doing with the show. Yeah.
You won the Malcolm Hardee Award. Is it in 2012?
I was nominated.
You nominated,
I was nominated. Yeah, for what did I do that year?
Is it pay to play? You paid.
Yes, I was giving. Yes, that's right.
Paying them to play. I love it. It's great. It's great.
Yeah.
And then
it was called £3, so I was giving the audience £1 when they came in because it was a show about generosity. So I felt that if I gave them £1 to start with, the rule was you keep that £1. I don't get that £1 back at the end of the gig. But if you want to give me other money at the end of the gig, then please do. So I was hoping they would give me £5 at the end of the gig from their pocket and keep the £1. And that was a really good show, a really good experience seeing the dynamic there.
But fun, isn't it? You've invested in them rather than them investing in you first. You're like, look, you're taking a gamble. You're literally taking a gamble.
Yeah.
Wasn't it on is it Ladbrokes or something?
Yeah, that was the following year. So I gave out a £1 bet the following year on me winning the Edinburgh Comedy Award. So I became the favourite for the Edinburgh Comedy Award that year, just based on the fact that everyone was betting on me while I was giving out the £1 bets.
Great.
But I became like the 10-1 favourite for the Edinburgh Comedy Award very early on. And but yeah, it was cool. I've always tried to do experimental stuff. And I was talking to another comedian about this again the other day, that for me, I think if you're putting out experimental stuff every year, things might happen over and above your plans. So that happened that year. So the Edinburgh Comedy Awards, I gave out the £1 bets, became the favourite, and it's the first time I've actually talked about what I did here. So just to confirm what I did for anyone that was a bit confused as to what happened that year, I cloned the Edinburgh. This is really going to blackball me from the Edinburgh Comedy Award if my jokes haven't done it anyway. I cloned, but they probably know this, I cloned the Edinburgh Comedy Award site. And I bought a domain name called edinburghcomedyaward.com. And the real award, I think, is called comedyaward.co.uk. So I bought a domain name, very similar, Edinburgh Comedy Award. I cloned the site so it looked identical. And on the day that it was announced, I had it all ready. It was live. And the 5 nominees were me and my friends. It was me, Mark Dolan, Milo McCabe, Russell Kane, who had won it like 3 years previously, so was ineligible, and Patrick Monahan. So they were the 5 nominees. So, and then I got all of those guys with their thousands of followers to tweet it. So as the moment the button was pressed on the real nominees, I pressed my button. All the tweets were flying around saying these are the 5 nominees. And I thought it would be funny, but then things started to happen which you couldn't control. Firstly, that friends would leave messages on my phone, gushy messages. This is the one I felt sorry about, saying, "Oh, Nathan, I've known you for so many years. You deserve this," you know. So that's the one I felt sorry about, right?
Yeah.
But the one that really got me was, and people may have got into trouble for this, so I do apologise if that happened. But hey, comedy's all about being slightly subversive. We got on the official edfringe.com website, front page as the official nominees, and we were on that website for the whole day and into the morning of the following day for 24 hours as the official nominees. And again, it's something really silly, but it's just like, yes, yes. It just made me. It just made me excited.
Great.
In terms
That's
of,
so fun, man. That is such a fun thing to do. It's like, I've won. It doesn't matter what happens now. I have beaten the Edinburgh Fringe.
Yeah,
it's great.
People get so serious about it, and I hope people, unless they lost their job about it, who put me on that website, I'm sure they haven't.
Funny.
We're in this game for comedy, and you know, I love Kaufman and all these kind of magical things that you can do with comedy. Yes, we can get up and tell jokes, but I've just wanted over the years to do something over and above that. And of course, people have called that gimmicks and stuff. So what I've done the last year with this observational show, there is no gimmick there, but I'm trying to create something over and above the jokes, and I've always tried to do that. So with this show, hopefully there's this magical, uplifting feeling over and above the actual jokes that people are left with,
and you're harnessing,
rather than a £3.
And you're harnessing your the joy that you've got at the moment, right? That's what it is.
Yeah, harnessing the joy I've got. So I was planning a show about kind of low points in my life, you know, a couple of years ago, and I just canned it. I said to my tech, I did a like work in progress of it, and it went really well, and the audience enjoyed it. But this thing about Baby Reindeer as well. Sorry to keep. You have a choice when you go through these things. Do you keep talking about it or not? You know, it's something I will talk to Richard about in terms of. You know, that choice that he's made. And obviously the choice has been spectacularly successful for him. But surely it comes at a cost to a certain extent, because you're talking about these things every day. You're reminding yourselves of the low points rather than using those. But it's a choice you make. And of course, when you've been through things that he's been through and what other people have been through, it can create a spectacular show, which it has obviously in his case.
Do you want to pick that scab every night, or do you want to like let it
heal? Exactly. So personally, I wanted to let it heal and forget about it.
But I love your gimmicks in the past, because whenever I go to Fringe, I was like, oh, there's Nathan's poster. What has he got this year? Because the one I really enjoyed was Man in the Arena. That was great. And I was like, oh, sold out. So I was like, this looks amazing. I'm like, that's Nathan. Yeah, he's like, oh, some dates left at on August in Edinburgh Fringe. I was like, it's great. It's great.
I had about 25, 30 arena dates, all sold out. One left, I think, at the O2 as well, in November after the Fringe. And let's say, so I don't give the name away, it was the chief comedy correspondent for a very famous publication. I'd say that. She or he, giving nothing away, came up to me a couple of days into the Fringe and went, Nathan, I've seen your poster. Congratulations. I didn't realise you were playing arenas. I'm like, you are the chief comedy correspondent. You know who I am. You know my level. You know I'm not an arena comedian. Why is it so easy to fool people? I tell you why it's so easy, and I'm talking about this in my show this year, and I've talked about it previously. You say something out loud and people believe you, whatever it is. Things I'm saying on this podcast, I could be lying. I could have no children. Get to know me. Whether you're in my house, you can see little pens, you're giving clues away. There's Star Wars boxes over there. There's table football. They're the clues.
It might just be traps.
Yeah, exactly. People lie. People, you never know what's going on with someone.
it's weird that, isn't it? You kind of go, oh God, I didn't know they were in that on that TV show or that TV the channel or whatever. You go, oh, they were, and then but you know them. Some of you are like, okay, but it's it's interesting. You just seeing it online, it's just like, oh, it makes it a reality of some kind.
Yeah. I mean, you see anything online, and people talk about fake news all the time. It's like fake news is a problem, but then they believe anything. They believe what stand-ups say. They believe what you say. Personally, it's so that was an interesting thing with that Man in the Arena. That it's something I've used in anything I've done. That you just put a big enough poster in Edinburgh, and people believe you. I did something else. I did the MC Awards, which was probably the favourite thing I did in Edinburgh.
Terrier Awards, was it the Terrier Awards? Was it?
No, that was called what was it called? It was called whatever it was the world's best MC award. But I think I did win an award for doing that show. The Terrier Award was the award that I won for doing that show. I think I've won so many awards. You forget.
I mean, I believe it now. It's like the Terrier Award. Is that like, because it sounds like an award that you would give somebody for just not quitting, just carrying on, just hanging in there. I think it was a
play on words for the Perrier. I think it was but whatever it was. But no, the MC Awards that I did was a kind of fake awards for MC. So the joke was that it would be 6 MCs in a row just doing MCing. So I would come on as the MC, talk to the crowd, ask them their name. Your name's Chris. What do you do for a living? Each MC would then do a variation on that. That's
great.
And they would all introduce each other. We had a proper judge. We had the Malcolm Hardee Award judge, John Fleming, judging it, supposedly. But then the joke at the end is that I thought I was such a good MC for the night that I should be considered for the MC award as well. So I implore all the 3 people listening to this to to go and it's on YouTube. It's on my website under clips. It's one of the funniest things I think I've done, and people still talk about it. Nick Helm was in it, and he always mentions it to me as such a fun thing to do. The clip, and there's an extended clip I think on YouTube of about 25 minutes. Nick Helm, you've got Chris Turner in it doing a rap, saying, "Oh, I think I've turned up as the wrong kind of MC." Yeah. You have Mark Silcox in it. I mean, it's just it's spectacularly funny.
Sounds so fun because it comes like a Inception MCing, isn't it? Really, because you're like, okay, what do you do? Oh, well, we've got to turn this upside down. What do you don't do? What do you not do? Isn't all this kind of like weird, things?
But again, it's like that was on Chortle that year. It's like there's an MC Awards, and because I was offering a £5,000 prize. It was saying, "Oh, maybe it's not all as it seems." No, of course it's not all as it seems. It's a joke. It's a joke. It's comedy.
£5,000. I'm offering £5,000 as a prize. I'm in Edinburgh, right? My god. Yeah. And because you talked about, I think I heard you say once on stage you were a banker before. Is that right?
Yeah. I worked in banking. So that's the only job I've done really, a day job apart from comedy. So I worked for a bank.
Funny bank around 2008, right? Yeah, it's like we'll buy all those shares. It's fine. Keep buying them. Keep buying them.
Yeah. God, I mean, I saw it all.
Was that in 2008? You finished there, or
no? I finished a few years after that, but I was definitely around in 2008. I saw it all happen. I've written a book about it.
What's it called?
It's called...
We're fucked.
It's called We're Fucked.
Bitcoin, buy now.
I've told the story of that, and there's
So what's it called? What's the name of it?
It's called I Caused the Financial Crash of 2008, and so because I was involved to a certain extent.
Right. Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, and that's the end of the podcast.
So, no. It's only because I it's a show I did again a couple of years ago, and you kind of I don't know, you move on from these things, and you forget about them. It's like, you reminded me, I did work
like an old girlfriend,
and so all these things you're reminding me of, I'm like, oh, fuck yes, I did do that, and I'm only thinking about, I guess, the current thing and the thing. I'm thinking about the thing I'm doing now, and I'm thinking a year in advance rather than going back. But it's nice to revisit these things. Sort
of like a regretful. Is it a regretful relationship? So, that was a relationship I had. It went okay, and then but we've moved on. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, part of why I'm happy now is I'm doing this full-time comedy and things related to it. So I guess talking about the bank, it was. it gave me a bit of money, but certainly not as much happiness as
Excel
I've got now.
Excel's not fun, is it? Really, it's not fun.
No, certainly not. Yeah. No.
So, how many shows have you done? Is it 4 shows? Am I right with that, or 5 shows?
Edinburgh shows.
Yeah,
I've done more than that. You've got to look at my Wikipedia page more thoroughly.
Damn it! Keeps getting deleted.
Yeah. It's all lies anyway.
Yes.
I've done 10 shows.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've done every year since 2010. Maybe it's only 4 that I talk about because they were the successful ones. Maybe they're the only ones I list. No, but they're all on my website. Yeah, you can look back at the archives. I've done 2010 was my first show, and I've done a different show every year.
And do you know the names of your shows?
I do.
Go on, drop
test
them all.
me off?
I want to test
Here
you.
we go. 2010, The Frog That Said Sausages.
Okay.
Straight in there. 2011, Fantastica. 2012, £3. I gave out a £3. 2013, Edinburgh Comedy Award winner. 2014, Date of Death. We've talked about it. 2015, Back to the Future. 1, 2 and 3. I did 3 shows in Edinburgh that year. 2016, 42. About the meaning of life, which was one of my favourite shows. And then Man in the Arena, which we've talked about. Then I Caused the Financial Crash of 2008. And then it was Observational this year, work in progress. Cool. And I have, I'm going to do Observational into the new year and throughout next year. And I've got a new show, which I can't give away the title of just yet, but I'm very, very excited about.
So you're come to 11 shows now?
I think that's my 11th. Is it next year?
Right.
Yeah.
Next year will be 11th.
Yeah.
So have you filmed any of them? Like I'll put them out there, apart from the MC show that you were saying?
Yeah, I haven't over the years, and I'm definitely going to do it this year. I'm already in plans to film Observational. I'm doing it at the Leicester Comedy Festival at the Brilliant Cookie, doing a couple of nights. So it's just such a lovely venue. I'm doing a Saturday night there, so it should just be lovely. So I will film Observational. I don't know why I haven't. I've always released clips. I've always filmed them and released clips, but I've never released the whole show. This one, I'm just so proud of Observational that, I've been proud of other shows, but I guess it's just not been on my mind. But the more people have done it over the last year, here's my special. Here's my slick, looks like a Netflix special, but of course it's just on YouTube. But I will release this at some point, probably towards the end of the year. It's got a few surprises in it, so I don't want to give the game away too early. Probably the end of next year, I'll release something online. Maybe I'll try and get it on something like Next Up or something like that as well. Yeah.
And what's the show that you've absolutely hated? You're gonna go back and oh, for fuck's sake, that was all. I hated doing that. It was such a I'm gonna do this again.
Yeah, I don't look back and hate any shows. I look back at some of the reviews I've got from previous shows and think I can understand why someone may have taken against that more than other shows. It is that some shows Edinburgh's very difficult to do a show at any festival when you're doing a show for a month over and over again. So previously I've got bored with shows, and I think that's shown. And so when you get a critic or an audience member in 2 or 3 weeks in and they give you a kind of review like, oh, you looked a bit tired and knackered, it's like, yes, I'd done my back in. I was in and out of A&E. And also, I was saying the same things over and over again. So that was the 42 show. I gave the audience 42 options. They picked 10. And I did a different show every night. So I had 42 bits. And I just did 10... I had a structure which I'd stick to, but the 10 different bits. So that fired my belly in terms of... starting with improvisational comedy, moving away from that because the clubs didn't really like it. I went back into that kind of semi-improvisational, improvising a structure rather than the material. So that fired my belly in terms of this is what I could do in Edinburgh, that I could do a slightly different thing every day.
So they did a choice of 10 shows?
It was a choice of 42 words on cards. Yeah. They would pick 10.
Got you.
And I would do those 10 bits in the show, which, again, a reviewer picked out and said he must have been cheating it. But no, it was very easy. I just had to learn for maybe three times the amount of material for a show.
Great.
But now, the current trick is just, because I've just got this thing, I hate to keep banging on about it, but it's because I've landed upon it and it's filled my heart with such joy. Because I've landed on something that is going down so well in terms of being uplifting and in terms of giving people a real buzz. I look forward to this show now so much, and I don't think I'm going to get bored of it, because you don't get bored of giving people that feeling. And maybe I got bored previously of the laughter is just, that's the minimum. Now I'm hoping to go one level above that, and I have done that in this show virtually every time I've done it. And you see people's reactions, and I guess it's the difference between, well, a comedian and hopefully a better comedian, but also kind of doing music and doing these other things. Other art forms like theatre, you can move people in different ways. You know, in music, you can come out of a gig and go, oh my God, that was the greatest thing. Oh my God, I've got to tell everyone about this. It's rarer that you have that in comedy. You go, oh, that was hilarious. You've got to go and see that, rather than literally, you've got to go and see this. And actually, this is what I'm doing now with this show more than any. I haven't done this before. Friends, family, I'm saying, come and see this show. Like, please come and see this show. And previously, I've been like, yeah, come and see it. Yeah, definitely, of course, come and see it. But I'm saying, no, really, come and see this show. I'm really proud of it. And after 10 years, you think you've earned the right to say, this is good now. This is proper good. So, you know, it'll still improve, and you'll probably see reviews for this show next year and go, it was rubbish, but it's not. It's great.
Observational, great. I mean, you can't really, you talk about how you shouldn't we don't want to follow the sadness. You use that emotion, but deliver the opposite. But it's like when you go to a gig and, like, say you see someone and the audience, for some reason, maybe they haven't gelled with the MC or something, and they're deliberately, no reason at all, just they've gone, no, we don't like this, we're funnier than the act, you know. Right. And then they've been, and this, maybe they start taking the piss out of the acts like that. And then, you know, sometimes when you kind of, I don't know if you feel this, you feel that you want to protect not the other. You should, like, go, no, this is not the way this should be. This is becoming us and you and them. And then that sometimes that really, I used to get very angry about that, kind of go, look, I mean, but I wouldn't take it out on them. Go, look, this is, you've been deliberately obtuse to that person who's on stage, and then they were just trying to give you everything they had, you know, but not necessarily sadness, but comedy, you know. And then they just were like just constantly taking the legs from under him like that, and just, you know, when it was someone in the front row is being a dick, right? They're not necessarily the figurehead for the whole night, but that emotion, you're off stage, you'll see that, and you'll go, right, I'm on next. Okay. I've got to just really, I'm going to dig in here. And that's the emotion, because you're doing one thing, aren't you? But inside there's something else, isn't there? And they don't know what that is. But that can happen the opposite way sometimes, isn't it? Say if you've had an argument with someone you're doing a show with, and then you go, right, okay. And they go, right, before you start the show, go, right, you're today, you were going to do a set, but no, you're emceeing now. You're like, oh, fuck, I was going to do a set, I want to. And then you try to leave that alone there, but it's inside you, and you take it up there, but they see what's in you rather than what you're saying, you know, that kind of thing. That's the same sort of thing, the trick you're talking about, right? But in an uplifting on the outside, but heart on the inside, you know what I mean? If that makes sense to you.
Yeah, well, you certainly never know what's going through people's heads, and certainly things. This actually happened to me on a Saturday night. Someone said something to me just before I went on stage, and I'm like, "Don't say this 5 seconds before I go on stage." And of course, you're getting up there, going, "Way!" Yeah. Not that I would do that. Way!
Boom! Away!
But yeah, what's going through your head in that first minute is something very different. And all the things you say are all the dynamics of a comedy night. You've got a terrible front row, or the audience takes some warming up, and it's the old duck and the paddling. They don't see the workings in your brain. You're constantly... I'm doing my own podcast, if I can plug this, about the... psychology of stand-up comedy called Psycomedy. So that's talking about what's going through your head before, during, and after gigs. And of course, you know, that's very interesting, because often what's going through often a gig is the space where you totally forget about stuff, but second by second, when those things are happening, then you have to make those split-second decisions in your head to keep the gig afloat sometimes. Yeah.
What's the hardest thing you've had to overcome to become a stand-up comedian?
I don't think it's hard, particularly for me, because as I said at the top, I feel like I am a stand-up, so that's why it's joyous doing stand-up, because I think I am a stand-up in my soul. It is a difficult job, the travel, the being away from friends and family, the solitude is hard, the industry is obviously sometimes problematic. The personalities are sometimes problematic. They throw up challenges in your way all the time. But if you love the art, then it's nothing is going to be too much of a problem, because at least I can get on stage tonight. I think it's what Stuart Lee said when he dropped away from stand-up, that he just feared that it would be taken away from him, his love stand-up. And it can never be taken away from you. Things can be taken away from you. Opportunities can be taken away from you. But actually getting up on stage and making people laugh, even if I did that, at a gig with 5 people in it, you can't take that away necessarily, unless you ban me from that particular gig. But yeah, when you have such a love for stand-up as I do, there's always going to be a happiness there, and the challenges will be overcome, because at the end of the day, you're doing something that you love.
Okay, so I like to ask this question every time I do the podcast. It's like, do you see yourself as a particular archetype of a trade of some kind in comedy? Like you have a sort of like a model of yourself as a stand-up. You're a stand-up, but you're also say, if, for example, if you're playing a game of Dungeons and Dragons, you'd be the elf. Or what would you be? You see yourself as okay, for example, Jim Owen, right? Jim Owen, love Jim Owen. He's like a comedy nymph, the comedy, kind of elven sort of weird kind of facial features. Is all kind of do you know what I mean? You're like a cartoon, but like a kind of mysterious elf sort of thing. That's the kind of that's what I see him as. But yourself, if you have, it's a hard question, but if you've ever gone, I'm more like that. You tell me next time, and I'll
No. I'm going to answer it. I'll buy some time by talking about Jim Owen, and he's absolutely brilliant. I chatted to him in Edinburgh this year, and he's got one of my favourite opening lines, probably my favourite opening line to a show ever. He comes on and just says, "So what else is funny?" It's just it's so lovely. What else is funny? It's just I guess it's I guess the word has probably changed over the last couple of years. It's as I say, I really have changed as an artist the last couple of years, that I would tend to talk about the things that I've been through, and if I've been to a low point, and again, not that it would create a low show, it would but there would be I talk about those emotions, and I talked about them in Day to Death, which was a lovely show. And so the words you might have used for me there is kind of like raw and or slightly slight arrogance, like somebody one of my best friends called me insouciant, and I had to look it up, kind of an insouciant. If anyone asked me who I'm a bit like, it would be kind of like down the kind of Bill Burr road. But now, actually, with this current show, as I say,
like a rage monster, basically. Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Well, that's it. It's that's better words than I could have come up with. Yeah, a rage monster. That would have been maybe a couple of years ago. That is in there still now. But there's a rage monster with spirituality and hope and happiness. After kind of what's happened to me over the last year, I tell the story in Observational, and I'm going to tell the ongoing story in my new show about what's happened, and it's truly, if I could, the word that I've said so much in this podcast is uplifting, and it's a word I haven't used before in my comedy. And why haven't I been searching for something that's been uplifting? It's the obvious thing to leave people feeling after a comedy show. But actually, if you think about all the favourite comedians that you like, probably uplifting is not necessarily one of the words that you think of. Bill Burr isn't uplifting, but I love him. So that's what I'm trying to be. I'm trying to be that the person that makes you feel good at the end of the shows, but truly enriched spiritually. But that's a wanky thing too. But I think after 10 years, it's like let's aim high here.
Yeah. try and bring everyone up for a change. But like when I ask you that question, so what you are, as what would you see yourself as, as an archetype in comedy? I love the way the sun just came through the window and hit you. Then it's I am the comedy Jesus.
You know what? I've never been. I say this in my show this year. I've never been religious. I've never been spiritual. But one or two things have happened. One thing I mentioned in Observational. One thing I'll talk about in my new show. Truly, it's like. They make you start to believe in magic. They make you start to believe in... Look at it. Look at the way the sun's shining on me. Yeah. It's previously, and still 99% of me is thinking, well, obviously it's just come out between the clouds. Yeah. But you know what?
Yeah. It wasn't there before.
I'm starting to believe. And
that's great.
I said this to a person the other day, and they know who they are. It's just like, I believe in magic now. And, it's a really lovely thing to believe in.
Synchronicity and why not? It's again more uplifting. Why not be happy rather than miserable? Like there's nothing else. This is just one bit of good news to the next bit of good news. Hey, look, aren't you alive today? You got up today. It's all great. And then you more. I think I synchronicity and some sort of coincidences in your life. I mean, so why not? Why wouldn't that happen? You've worked towards it. You've done 11 shows. I mean, you've put in the time, and it's momentum, isn't it?
Yeah. But also something. Believing in, I talk about this in my show, that I've never been religious, but I really have always loved people that are religious, and they always seem happier, they always seem calmer, they always seem more hopeful, and of course they do, particularly as they get older. And it's not like I've have religion now, but I have more belief, and as I say, a belief in magic and spirituality and things happening for a reason, and it has made me happier. And if nothing else, that makes me happier, that makes the people around me happier. So something's working, even if there's nothing actually in reality there.
So Nathan, we can find you every week at the Nice and Spiky.
Yes, Mondays at Nice and Spiky. If you want to see me develop my new material, then come and see me there. But otherwise, all my gigs are listed at nathancassidy.com.
And at Nathan Cassidy.
At Nathan Cassidy on Twitter, the Nathan Cassidy, because I'm still that arrogant prick. the Nathan Cassidy on Instagram. And yes, you can come and find me in Hackney as well. I'll be walking around, and my address is...
Well, and we can find you at Psycomedy, is it?
Psycomedy. Psycomedy.co.uk. And
your show is going to be Observational. Is going to be at the Edinburgh Fringe this year.
Observational at the Edinburgh Fringe, at the Leicester Comedy Festival, at the Brighton Fringe, and my new show will be a work in progress next year. So as I said to you, I've never done this before, but I will say, everyone, come. It's going to be very, very good.
Uplifting.
Hey. Uplifting is the word.
Hey Nathan, thanks for your time, mate.
Oh, thanks so much, man. It was great. Cheers.
And that was episode 80 with the very funny Nathan Cassidy. This has been one of my favourite episodes to listen to and just edit as well, because all the little tips here. Nathan comes off from this episode looking like the original Fringe prankster. And what a genius idea to clone the Fringe Awards website. I mean, really, the Fringe is doing his marketing for him in the end. Just goes to show what you can do if you use your imagination. You can make the Fringe work for you. So yeah, that was episode 80. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, share it, tell your friends. And you know what, like, you can donate to the podcast. Go to Patreon, type in the Comedy Defect Podcast. Donate as little or as much as you want. And if you can't donate, as I say, share your favourite episode. That was Nathan Cassidy. He's at the Nice and Spiky gig in the Regent's Pub, and that is in Angel every Monday night. Of course, lockdown is lifting now, so he'll be back there again. Every Monday night, you'll see him emceeing it, doing about an hour. He's great, though. I love Nathan. He's a really lovely guy, really funny guy, too. Go and check him out if you're ever on a bill. And so that was episode 80. And next month, for, I guess, the last Wednesday of the month Christmas special, we've got Leo Curse. He's labelled himself as a right-wing comedian. He's a very funny guy. Won Scottish Comedian of the Year. That is for episode 81. Until then, follow us, like us, share us, do all that stuff if you want to. If you don't worry about it. And that is episode 80. Until we have confirmation that we were out of lockdown, I'll see you at the end of December.